Before I even tell you what happened this week, let me just say, this changes everything you thought you knew about European stability. I'm Andrew Meet Rich, former analyst for a state-run media outlet, now bringing you the truth they don't want you to hear. You won't believe the economic manipulation happening right under our noses while Putin prepares to carve up Ukraine like a Sunday roast. British shoppers are being played by inflation games, and European leaders are scrambling because Trump just announced he's meeting Putin in Alaska this Friday. Wait until you hear how Poland's Donald Tusk revealed America's promise to consult Europe before this historic summit. And now listen carefully, because tomorrow the news could change everything. If you want the unfiltered truth about what's really happening while mainstream media feeds you propaganda, hit that like button right now, subscribe, and let's expose what they're hiding from us. Because this isn't just about economics or diplomacy, this is about whether Europe will survive intact or watch Putin reshape the continent while politicians play games. Let's start with Britain, where they're pulling the wool over consumers' eyes with the most sophisticated economic deception I've seen in years. July brought record-breaking heat, the fifth warmest July in British history since 1884, and guess what happened? Clothing sales exploded by 4.2%, the biggest jump since September last year. Barclays data shows grocery spending up nearly 1%. The British Retail Consortium claims spending rose 2.5%. compared to last July. But here's where it gets insidious. People are spending more, but they're not buying more goods. Rising food inflation means increased spending was more about higher prices than actual demand. The Bank of England is forecasting inflation will hit 4% in September, double their 2% target. Food prices are set to peak at 5.5% by year's end. Wait until you hear the next part. Around 1 to 2 percentage points of food inflation comes directly from higher minimum wage and employer tax contributions ordered by Finance Minister Rachel Reeves. They're literally taxing businesses into raising prices, then celebrating when people spend more money on less food. You see the pattern, right? They create the problem, then measure the spending increase as economic success. Just imagine that for a second, politicians forcing businesses to pay higher wages and taxes, which drives up food costs, then patting themselves on the back when desperate families spend more money for the same groceries. Bank of England. Governor Andrew Bailey admitted consumers have been more cautious than expected. Of course they have, because people aren't stupid. They know when they're being fleeced. The warm weather artificially boosted clothing sales early in July, but momentum collapsed as temperatures dropped. Fashion retailers are now drowning in promotions, slashing margins just to move inventory. Here's where it gets even worse. Economists are watching to see if households will dip into savings just to maintain basic spending while unemployment rises to 4.5%. The government creates inflation through policy, families drain savings to survive, and politicians celebrate rising retail numbers. It's economic gaslighting on an industrial scale. If you're still with me, hit that like button. It tells me you want the truth, not just the headlines. But if you think this British economic manipulation is bad, wait until you hear what's happening between Trump and Putin. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk just dropped a bombshell that should terrify every European who values sovereignty. The United States has promised to consult with European partners before Trump meets Putin this Friday in Alaska. Let me repeat that. America promised to consult Europe before potentially reshaping the continent's future. This isn't diplomacy, this is damage control, because European leaders are absolutely panicking about what Trump might give away to Putin. Here's what we know. Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff spent 3 hours with Putin in Moscow last Wednesday and came back with Putin's proposal. The Russian dictator wants Ukraine to withdraw from the entire Donetsk region, plus Luhansk, giving Russia complete control over Crimea and 4 eastern Ukrainian regions. And now listen carefully. Trump has already signaled he's open to land swaps, saying there will be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. Betterment of both. Ukraine is fighting for survival, while Putin demands territorial rewards for his illegal invasion. Tusk revealed that European leaders all feel uncertainty about this meeting's outcome. Of course they do, because this could be Munich 1938 all over again, with Trump playing Neville Chamberlain, while Putin gets rewarded for aggression. The Alaska summit location is no coincidence, it's psychological warfare. Putin's choosing the territory Russia sold to America for $7.2 million in 1867, where he now wants to negotiate taking Ukrainian land for free. European leaders issued a desperate joint statement saying international borders must not be changed by force, and Ukraine must be part of any negotiations. France's Macron, Germany's Merz, Britain's Starmer, and Italy's Meloni are all scrambling because they know Putin is convinced he's winning. But here's the shocking twist. Trump set Friday as the deadline for Putin to agree to peace or face severe sanctions, yet instead of punishment, Putin gets a personal summit invitation. You see how this works? Putin ignores deadlines, escalates attacks on Ukrainian cities, and gets rewarded with face-to-face negotiations. Ukrainian President Zelensky defiantly stated Ukrainians will not give their land to occupiers, but he's not in the room where decisions get made. Meanwhile, Putin's aide Yuri Ushakov is already talking about economic cooperation and proposing a return summit in Russia. Subscribe now because the next story we cover might hit even closer to home, and European leaders are realizing they might be watching the dismantling of everything they built since World War II. What we're witnessing is the potential end of the post-war European order, and most people have no idea how close we are to catastrophe. In Britain, politicians manipulate inflation to create fake economic growth, while families struggle with rising costs. In Ukraine, Putin demands territorial concessions for his war crimes, while Trump considers land swaps as if sovereign nations are trading cards. Polish Prime Minister Tusk and other European leaders are desperately trying to maintain unity, but they're realizing America might abandon them for a deal with Putin. This isn't just geopolitics, this is about whether aggression gets rewarded and whether Europe can defend itself without American protection. Tusk emphasized that Europe has 2.6 million soldiers compared to 1.3 million in America and 1.1 million in Russia, plus more fighter jets. Europe is a power, but lacks the imagination and courage to act like one. We're building an honest English-speaking news community here because mainstream media won't tell you how dangerous this moment really is. Like this video if you want more unfiltered analysis, subscribe for daily truth-telling, and comment below with your thoughts about whether Europe will stand up to Putin or watch Ukraine get carved up in Alaska. What do you think? Comment below.